The world is witnessing an unprecedented movement of people. Millions are leaving their homes, not by choice, but out of sheer necessity. This is the global migrant crisis. It is a crisis of staggering proportions, demanding our immediate attention and action. Never before have so many been displaced by conflict, persecution, and severe hardship. The numbers are stark and sobering. The UN Refugee Agency estimates that over 100 million people worldwide are forcibly displaced. This includes refugees, asylum seekers, and those internally displaced within their own countries. These figures represent countless individual stories of loss, resilience, and the desperate search for safety. Behind these statistics are human beings just like you and me. They are families fleeing war-torn countries. They are individuals escaping persecution and seeking a better life. They are mothers, fathers, children, all with hopes and dreams, all deserving of our compassion and support. The migrant crisis is not a distant problem. It is a global challenge that requires a unified global response. What drives people to leave their homes, often with little more than the clothes on their backs? This question is at the heart of understanding the phenomenon of mass migration. It's a question that has no single answer, as the reasons are as varied and complex as the individuals themselves. The answer lies in a complex interplay of factors, each compounding the other and fueling this global exodus. These factors can be broadly categorized into three main areas: conflict and persecution, environmental changes, and economic hardship. Each of these areas is deeply interconnected, creating a web of circumstances that can make life untenable for millions of people. Foremost among these is conflict and persecution. Throughout history, wars and political strife have driven people from their homes. Whether it's civil wars, ethnic cleansing, or political repression, the threat of violence and persecution forces people to seek safety elsewhere. War, violence, and human rights abuses create an environment of fear and insecurity, forcing people to flee for their lives. The trauma of leaving behind everything familiar, often under duress, cannot be overstated. Families are torn apart, communities are shattered, and the psychological scars can last a lifetime. The ongoing conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and the Democratic Republic of Congo are but a few examples of this tragic reality. In these regions, the daily lives of ordinary people are disrupted by bombings, armed clashes, and systemic violence. The international community often struggles to provide adequate support, leaving many to fend for themselves in dire conditions.
Climate change is emerging as another significant driver of displacement. As the planet warms, the frequency and intensity of natural disasters increase, making certain areas uninhabitable. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and prolonged droughts are rendering parts of the world uninhabitable. Coastal areas are particularly vulnerable, with entire communities at risk of being submerged. In other regions, prolonged droughts devastate agriculture, leading to food shortages and economic instability. This is particularly acute in vulnerable regions like the Sahel in Africa and low-lying island nations in the Pacific. These areas are on the front lines of climate change, experiencing its effects more severely and more rapidly than other parts of the world. The inhabitants of these regions often have few resources to adapt to these changes, making migration a necessary survival strategy.
Economic hardship further exacerbates the situation. In many parts of the world, poverty and lack of opportunities are chronic issues that drive people to seek better lives elsewhere. Poverty, lack of opportunities, and inequality push individuals and families to seek a better life elsewhere. In regions where economic opportunities are scarce, people are often left with no choice but to migrate in search of work, education, and a chance at a better future. This is especially true in the developing world, where economic disparities are often stark. The contrast between wealth and poverty can be glaring, with affluent neighborhoods existing side by side with sprawling slums. This inequality fuels a sense of desperation and a desire to escape the cycle of poverty. These factors are interconnected and mutually reinforcing. Conflict can lead to economic collapse, while climate change can exacerbate existing tensions and trigger conflict. Conflict can lead to economic collapse, while climate change can exacerbate existing tensions and trigger conflict. For instance, droughts can lead to food shortages, which in turn can spark violence and unrest. Similarly, economic instability can weaken a country's ability to respond to natural disasters, making the effects of climate change even more devastating. This creates a vicious cycle of displacement. making it increasingly difficult for people to find safety and rebuild their lives. The journey of a refugee is fraught with danger and uncertainty. From navigating treacherous terrain to facing hostility in host countries, the path to safety is never easy. Yet despite these challenges, the resilience and determination of displaced people are a testament to the human spirit's enduring strength. To grasp the urgency of the migrant crisis, it helps to look at specific situations. Each story of displacement is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the dire circumstances that force people to leave their homes. Afghanistan, Ethiopia, and Syria stand as stark examples of how conflict and instability can uproot entire populations. These regions have been plagued by violence, political turmoil, and humanitarian crises that have left millions in search of safety and stability.
In Afghanistan, the Taliban's takeover in 2021 triggered a mass exodus. The sudden shift in power created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, compelling countless families to abandon their homes in search of refuge. Millions fled their homes, fearing persecution and violence. The rapid advance of the Taliban left little time for preparation, resulting in chaotic scenes as people scrambled to escape. The international community watched in shock as desperate Afghans thronged Kabul's airport, seeking a way out. The images of people clinging to planes and scaling fences highlighted the sheer desperation and urgency of their plight.
Ethiopia's Tigray region has been ravaged by civil war since 2020. The conflict has pitted government forces against regional fighters, resulting in widespread devastation and suffering. The conflict has resulted in widespread human rights abuses, famine, and mass displacement. The humanitarian crisis in Tigray has left millions in dire need of assistance, with many facing severe food shortages and lack of basic necessities. Millions have been internally displaced, while thousands have fled to neighboring Sudan. The influx of refugees has strained resources in host communities, creating additional challenges for aid organizations working to provide support.
Syria's civil war, now in its second decade, continues to displace millions. The prolonged conflict has devastated cities, destroyed infrastructure, and left countless families without homes. The conflict has created one of the worst humanitarian crises in recent history. The scale of destruction and the number of people affected are staggering, with entire communities uprooted and lives forever changed. Over 6 million Syrians are internally displaced, while another 6 million have fled to neighboring countries, placing an immense strain on resources and infrastructure. The refugee camps in these countries are often overcrowded and under-resourced, making it difficult to meet the needs of those seeking shelter.
These are not just statistics. Each number represents a person, a family, a community that has been torn apart by conflict and forced to start anew in unfamiliar and often hostile environments. They are real people with real lives and real stories of loss, resilience, and hope. Their journeys are fraught with danger and uncertainty, yet they continue to persevere in the face of unimaginable adversity. Their plight demands our attention, our empathy, and our unwavering support. It is a call to action for the global community to come together and provide the necessary aid and resources to help these individuals rebuild their lives and find a sense of normalcy once again. The decision to flee one's home is never taken lightly. It is a heart-wrenching choice, often made under the most dire of circumstances. Families are torn apart, leaving behind everything they have ever known, in search of safety and a glimmer of hope. It is a last resort, driven by desperation and the hope for a better future. The journey ahead is filled with uncertainty, but the promise of a new beginning fuels their resolve. They walk with hope in their hearts, despite the daunting challenges that lie ahead. However, the journey itself is fraught with danger, uncertainty, and often exploitation. The path to safety is not a straight one. It is riddled with obstacles that test their endurance and spirit. Every step forward is a gamble, with no guarantees of what lies ahead. Many migrants face perilous journeys, often lasting months or even years. The road is long and arduous, with little respite. They travel through harsh terrains, endure extreme weather conditions, and face the constant threat of being turned back. They may travel on foot, crammed into overcrowded trucks, or on rickety boats ill-equipped for the open sea. Each mode of transport comes with its own set of dangers. On foot, they are exposed to the elements and the risk of injury. In trucks, they are packed like sardines with little room to breathe. On boats, they face the peril of the unforgiving sea. Along the way, they face the constant threat of violence, robbery, and extortion. Smugglers and traffickers prey on their vulnerability, exploiting their desperation for profit. Many are robbed of their meager possessions, leaving them with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Women and children are particularly vulnerable. They are often the first targets of violence and exploitation. The journey is especially harrowing for them, as they navigate a world fraught with danger with little protection. They are at increased risk of sexual violence, trafficking, and exploitation. The threat of being sold into slavery or forced into prostitution looms large. For many, the journey becomes a nightmare, as they fall into the hands of those who seek to exploit their plight. Many undertake these journeys alone, separated from their families, adding to the trauma and uncertainty. The loneliness is palpable, as they navigate an unfamiliar world without the support of loved ones. The separation from family adds an emotional burden that is hard to bear. The Mediterranean Sea has become a particularly deadly route. The treacherous waters are a formidable barrier, claiming the lives of thousands who attempt the crossing. The sea is both a gateway to hope and a graveyard for dreams. Thousands have perished attempting to cross from North Africa to Europe in search of safety and a better life. The journey is fraught with peril as they navigate overcrowded boats that are often unfit for the voyage. The dream of reaching Europe is overshadowed by the constant threat of death. The images of overcrowded boats capsizing, leaving behind a trail of human tragedy, are a stark reminder of the human cost of this crisis. Each life lost is a story cut short, a dream unfulfilled. The sea is a silent witness to the countless lives that have been claimed in the pursuit of a better future.